Welcome to the Vietnamese Poetry Literature channel. Today we will listen to the work In the Afternoon Darkness by author Thach Lam. Let's listen. Dean stood close to the water store, looking across the street. A group of workers crowded together at the factory gate, everyone looking tired. Even though the winter afternoon light was dim, it was enough to make them blink their eyes and raise their hands to cover them, like people who had just stepped out of the dark. Dean acknowledged each person carefully, following the women workers as they walked and chatted happily and mischievously. He did not see Mai in that group. Dean waited a moment. Only when he saw the factory's two heavy doors close did Dean turn and walk after the workers. A look of concern appeared on his face. I don't know where Mai is. Or was it already there and we didn't see it? Dean wanted to grab a woman worker and ask, but didn't dare.
Moreover,
Dean was afraid to ask someone that Mai knew she wouldn't agree. Dean walked and thought. He remembered all of Mai's gestures towards him recently. This wasn't the first time he went to pick up Mai urgently. It was never like that before, because Mai knew that Dean would come to pick her up. So Mai had the intention to avoid it. Dean asked to guess the reason and an anger arose in her heart. He gritted his teeth and stomped hard on the sidewalk. Dean remembered the happy days back home, when he and Mai played together in the cassava gardens on the hillside. Mai is a mischievous and clever girl, always smiling and talking. And Dean is a quiet and shy guy, often hesitant and awkward in front of girls. The two have loved each other since childhood with the simple and loving love of country people. Then came the day when both families were poor. Dean and Mai followed their parents to the province to find work. Mai is a factory worker, while he is an apprentice at a shop. The two people earned just enough money to live a life of deprivation and squalor in the province. However, the love between both sides remained unchanged, and every time she finished work, Dean would go to the factory to pick up Mai and return to a village in the suburbs. Dean sighed, because he noticed that Mai had not been talking to him for a while now, and seemed to want to avoid him. For a while now, Mai has been going out every day with her girlfriends at work, flirtatious girls that Mai used to hate. Faced with that closeness, one day Dean got jealous and said sarcastically to her friend, then Mai replied, "They are just like me, what do you hate?" Dean was very angry and said, "So you don't know why they have so much money to spend?" Mai remained silent and did not answer. Dean wanted Mai to understand that those girls used to be just workers like any other worker, but now they are pleasing to the boss's eye, so they have a lot of money to spend. Dean wanted to say more but stopped, afraid of offending Mai, and he was sure that Mai also knew that. One day, Dean caught Mai admiring something in her hand. As soon as he got close, Mai quickly hid him behind his back. Dean pulled it out to look and saw a small gold ring. He asked in surprise, "Did you buy the ring? Where's the money?" Mai hesitated and did not answer awkwardly. Dean kept asking. Mai said it was borrowed from a girlfriend. But looking into Mai's clear eyes, Dean knew that Mai wasn't telling the truth. Thinking of this, Dean felt uneasy in her heart. A fear gradually seeped into his heart, at the same time as depression. A thought of wanting to leave this dusty life in the province and return to work in the countryside. Suddenly, Dean stopped immediately. He just caught a glimpse of Mai through the window of a small shop at the end of the street. Dean gingerly stood outside the curtain and looked in. He saw Mai sitting with a few girls, laughing and joking, and at the end of the table there was a male worker whispering in his ear to one of the girls. When she saw that person, Dean's heart suddenly beat like a scared bird. His eyes widened and he staggered, leaning against the wall to keep from falling. Dean then realized that the man sitting there was a worker at the same factory as Mai, whom everyone called the matchmaker. He has only one job in the factory, which is to seduce girls that the boss is interested in. The female worker whom he invites will certainly become a boss in the factory, with power in her hands and especially money to buy clothes. Then after a month or two, when the boss got bored, he gave way to someone else. Thinking of Mai as well as those girls, Dean felt her heart tighten as if before some terrible accident. Dean felt dizzy all over. He gritted his teeth and muttered softly, "Bastard." He wanted to immediately jump inside and drag Mai out to scold her. His hands clasped, but the timid nature still wins. He hesitated for a moment, then quietly bowed and walked away quickly. Returning home, Dean lay down on the bed, depressed. The narrow, dark room made it difficult for him to breathe. Dean remembers the gloomy scene at noon, the dusty workers, the dirty clothes, the whole black street with coal stains and especially the factory towering under the mottled walls. Dean thought again of the fields in her hometown, of the trees where the morning light vibrated, and of Mai's lovely figure walking beside him. Thinking about those happy days, and her poverty, Dean now felt sorry for herself and cried with tears in her eyes. Afternoon. Dean went to Mai's house and saw that she had just returned from work. He approached Mai, not daring to look at her, and said, "Miss Mai, come here, I have something to tell you." Mai followed. The two of them quietly walked down the dirt road to the lawn behind the house, where they always met and talked. Arriving there, Mai sat down on the sidewalk and waited. Dean stood still beside her, not knowing what to say. The love and anger were mixed in his heart, and the words he wanted to say hesitated as if they wouldn't come out of his mouth. Mai kept her face down and fiddled with the bib strip. Only then did Dean ask hesitantly, "Mai, why do you keep avoiding me these days? You don't love me anymore?" Then Dean didn't know what to say anymore. All the resentment and love he said were said. Dean recalled the warm days in the countryside, the close relationship between the two sides. Dean naturally uttered sentences to express her feelings. His words were gentle and earnest like the pleas of a suffering person. Suddenly Dean stopped. Mai, face down with both hands, crying. Dean saw her shoulders sobbing. Touched, Dean bent down to comfort her lover. He raised his hand to gently touch Mai's arm. But he stood up immediately, eyes wide and bewildered like a madman. Dean had just accepted Mai's dress and makeup, rings on her fingers and earrings sparkling under her hair, as luxurious as a rich lady. And Mai powdered it. The lipstick-stained lips of the formerly simple country girl made him shudder, thinking of the faces plastered with makeup and lips soaked in lipstick as if soaked in blood that he often saw in front of entertainment places. Dean was shocked and cold all over. He seemed to see an immense force separating Mai from him. A choking pain rose up to block her throat. Dean sobbed and then bowed her head and ran away into the darkness of the late afternoon. At the end of the work, please support me with the like button and subscribe to the channel to listen to more works.